shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite the ride.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Movie Pit Podcast. Hello. It's been a while. It's been a little while. Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? Happy New Year. It's obviously more than a few days, a week actually into the new year. Hopefully all of you had a good new year, a safe one, and also a safe holiday season. I am Christian. This is the Movie Pit Podcast. Of course, this is the podcast where we talk mainly about all the big movie news items of the week. We also used to talk about the movies coming out in theaters, but that hasn't happened in a while. And from the looks of it, it won't happen in this year either, at least hopefully for the first half of the year. We also talk about a bunch of other stuff, movie trailers, although there hasn't really been a lot of movie trailers either. And we also just, other stuff, reviews every now and then, and just a bunch of random opinions from this guy. And today's podcast, I figured it would be appropriate to start off the new year talking about, of course, the movies from the past. I usually try to do this with one other person, but obviously with the pandemic going around and lack of planning on my part, because I've been trying to figure out what to do with the podcast. But that's for another podcast. I want to try to keep this podcast as positive as possible, especially on this first episode of the new year. So that being said, this podcast will be specifically for the lists, quote unquote, of 2020. So we'll be talking about my favorite movies of the year. We'll be talking about those honorable mentions. We'll be talking about surprises of the year. I have quite a few of those. We'll also be talking about my least liked and disappointments, and a few other categories along the way as well. So buckle up, because I got quite a few of those. This podcast is probably going to be a little longer, but that's usually how it works out for these podcasts, right? I was going to split them up, but I figure I might as well just put them all in one podcast. Have the first podcast of the year be a big one, because given my schedule, I don't know how often I will be recording podcasts, but I'm going to try to return to the podcast and try to maybe even do 2 podcasts a week now that I'm working from home. Now that I figured out my schedule, I have a good flow. I can probably start doing some more podcasts for you guys and releasing 2 podcasts a week like I had originally envisioned for this year and for the podcast in general. But that's, again, another podcast in itself. We're going to focus on one thing, and that is the lists of the year. So when I started doing lists for the movies that I watched, I always did my favorites. Back then I used to try to be clever and do the best movies of the year, but I figured, who am I to judge? So I started calling it my favorites. I do my honorable mentions. I do my least liked and disappointments. And along the years, I've noticed that, what about all the other movies? What about all the other movies that I've watched that don't have anywhere to go? I don't know where to put them, but I still want to kind of give them a shout out. So I started making these new categories, and my first category that I have is Undecided Movies of the Year. Now, these are movies that are really right on the cusp of going on a list, but I don't know where to put them. I like them, but I don't know where to put them. And I don't want to put them in my favorites because they weren't really my favorites. I don't want to put them in my least liked or disappointments of the year because they don't fit there either. I have a frustrating movie category, which we'll get to, but they don't really deserve to go on there either. So this is kind of the undecided movies of the year where I just don't know where to put them. I did end up enjoying them. I did really like them, but I just don't know where I think they go. And I only have 4 this year. And those 4 are Hamilton, Kajillionaire, Sonic the Hedgehog, and The Hunt. Now, Hamilton, don't hate me, guys. I know Hamilton was the big thing. Everyone's still talking about it. Everyone listens to the soundtrack. I never got a chance to watch the show live because I'm not rich. Also, I'm not lucky in the lottery, and I didn't get to watch it in theaters. None of us get to watch it in theaters because of COVID. And honestly, I think that would have made the experience a lot better. I mean, I have a good home theater system, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same. Obviously, it's not the same. I did enjoy the performances. I did like the music, but just watching a stage play in movie form doesn't really click the same way. And again, I liked it. I did. I actually liked it more than I thought I would. But I don't know. I don't know. It watching a play in movie form just doesn't give the same vibe. And seeing it at home, maybe, if I had seen it in theaters, it probably would have gone on one of my other lists. But there it goes. So don't hate me, guys. Please don't hate me. I know we're starting off on the wrong foot, but please don't hate me. The next one is Kajillionaire. This one's a weird one for me. This movie follows a family. For those of you who don't know, follows a family played by, the family consists of Evan Rachel Wood, Deborah Winger, and Richard Jenkins. They pull off these small time kind of thievery. They're kind of like charlatans, pretty much, almost in a way. But the dynamic changes when an outsider, played by Gina Rodriguez, joins them for a potential big payday. I love the dynamic between the cast. Rachel Evan Woods is Old Dolio. Yes, that is her name. Her name is Old Dolio, and there is a reason why her name is Old Dolio in the movie. She is fantastic in this. And the dynamic between her and the other cast members is amazing. And for the most part, the majority of the cast is just those four actors. And they interact with people every now and then, but it's really focused on them, and it's really focused on Evan Rachel Wood, and she is fantastic. Evan Rachel Wood, she's done a lot of stuff, and most of us probably now know her as Dolores from Westworld, but she does a really great job here. And Gina Rodriguez, I never watched Jane the Virgin, so my experience with watching Gina Rodriguez comes from Deepwater Horizon, which she had a very small role in that, and I saw her in something else and I can't remember what it was now, but she's great in this too. Just seeing the both of them kind of interact with each other is really great. And I actually got to watch it. There was the whole summer and early fall of the film festivals, and I saw this during that kind of online film festival run, and a lot of the movies that I actually have in my list, well, not a lot of them, but a good chunk of them are from that film festival. So Kajillionaire kind of goes on the list because I really liked it. It was really good, and I loved Evan Rachel Wood's performance, but there was just something missing for me. I don't know what it was. I don't know. Sonic the Hedgehog, let's face it, this one was a huge question mark all over, and what ended up could have been a disaster with the design, which surprisingly, everyone listened to the fans, and the fans got the design fixed. This is, it got delayed, and it got delayed, and thankfully it didn't get delayed too much, because obviously we probably would have seen it at home. But it's great. It's entertaining. It's really entertaining. It's a family movie, which I think for a Sonic is probably the main demographic and the main thing that people should be going for. But on the other hand, I don't think I had the heart to put it in an honorable mention. I think any other year would have gone honorable mention, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I think, and a lot of people obviously, I think, like Sonic the movie because of Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey going back to his Jim Carrey ways of old, playing Dr. Robotnik. I thought it was just a little bit too over the top. Just that maybe it's just me, but yeah, there you go. And The Hunt. Okay, so The Hunt obviously was affected by COVID. It was actually one of the first major movies affected by COVID at the time, because that's when movie theaters started getting shut down, and this one was kind of one of those victims of it. It was labeled as the most controversial movie of the year at that point, mainly by people who had not seen it. Only a handful of media journalists had actually seen the movie at the time. So all this buzz was surrounding it. I was like, oh, it's so controversial. It's it's attacking all the sides. It's attacking all the liberals. No, no, not really. The Hunt wasn't even that controversial. It's actually rather tame, at least from my point of view. It's nothing more than it's nothing more than a people hunting people movie. Even its attacks, quote unquote, on the liberals and conservatives, it's kind of done as, I don't want to say like purely satirical. It's almost done in a comedic way, but in the comedic way that makes sense for the world that the movie's in. It's got decent gore. It has a pretty great final fight that I think a lot of people have talked about between Betty Gibson's character and Hilary Swank. honestly, I can actually recommend The Hunt. I'm not afraid of recommending The Hunt because, again, it's not that controversial. I don't know. It's just I think the overall buzz of the movie that was created by people who had not watched it hurt the movie, but also kind of made this movie's like, oh, people got to watch it to see how controversial it is. And once people watched it, they were like, what the hell are you guys talking about? It's not that bad. So The Hunt, I put it there because I did really end up liking it. I wish I had liked it just a little bit more. And I'm thankfully one of those people that was like, that just doesn't care about buzz at all. Like, this movie could be any movie, in fact, could be, like put on a pedestal and people say this is the best movie ever made. And I'm just going to go in there and just soak the movie in for what it is. So that's what I did with The Hunt. And I did end up liking it. It's thoroughly enjoyable. But I think it just lacked a little something else. It's got decent gore, but I don't know. Maybe I got to watch it again and maybe I'll end up somewhere else. So, all right, let's move on. That is the undecided movies of the year. Let's move on to the frustrating movies of the year. This is, of course, these are movies that I liked, or not liked. I shouldn't say. One of these is I did end up liking, but there was just something about it that held. You can tell they were holding back, and they shouldn't have held back. And these are movies that I didn't really have too much buzz over. Not buzz. Buzz isn't the right word. Anticipation. I didn't have a lot of anticipation over, but I went in and I still watched them. So one of the first movies, like I said, there's only 3 movies. So they are Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Gretel and Hansel, and Train to Busan Presents Peninsula. So the Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, I am one of those people that really liked Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It is one of my all-time favorite comedy movies. The characters of Jay and Silent Bob have crossed over pretty much in all other Kevin Smith movies, and it's hard not to not really like them because it's the way it's all on Jason Mewes and his performance and how in he goes on that role. Unfortunately, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot didn't do that. It's I don't want to say it held back because, if you watch Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, they don't really hold back on their jokes. And I felt like they were holding back a little bit on Reboot. It felt like, I don't know, it just didn't have, it didn't have the oomph on the humor. There are some genuine laughs in it. I did genuinely laugh a lot in Reboot, but I didn't laugh as much as I did watching Strike Back. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that the movie, it does try to mature these characters a little bit. Obviously, the whole point of the movie, or not the whole point of the movie, but a good plot of the movie is that Jay finds out that he has a love child that is actually ironically played by Kevin Smith's character, or Kevin Smith's real daughter in the movie. Or real daughter in real life, who plays Jay's daughter in the movie. There you go. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just best that Jay and Silent Bob are supporting characters, especially in, times of today, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It was frustrating. It was frustrating because I know that Kevin Smith loves these characters and that Jay Mewes loves these characters and that we all love these characters. But I don't know. Maybe it's just better now that they are actually more supporting characters than main characters in their own movie. So there's that. Gretel and Hansel. Took the classic story of Hansel and Gretel. Obviously, they did the switch there. Gretel, played by Sophia Lillis from the It movies, plays, like I mentioned, Gretel. A newcomer, Samuel Leakey, played Hansel. They are banished from their home in this movie, in this version of the story, and they of course go into the woods, and then they find the witch's house, and of course things start going on. The thing about this movie is. The good thing about this movie, at least that I like, and I think some other people liked, are the visuals, the score, and the production design. Those are the 3 things I like about the movie. Everything else is just meh. And the movie moves at such a snail's pace that when the movie finally picks up, it just happens. It finally picks up and it's over, and it's too late in the process. So I don't know. I found myself kind of wondering, and that's not something you want in a movie, even though it was beautiful to look at, even though the score was both haunting and enthralling, and then you have the production design of the house and of the woods and of everything else. But the movie itself it moved so slow, and it wasn't that long of a movie. It felt like a 2.5 hour movie, even though it was like, I think it was like 90 minutes. I don't even think it was that long. But yeah, that's one thing that really annoyed me about Gretel and Hansel. And then there's Peninsula. I'm just going to call it Peninsula. I'm not going to call it by its full name. Of course, Hansel, I almost said Hansel and Gretel again. Train to Busan just rocked everybody. It was one of those movies that you watched it and a lot of people really loved it. And we were so excited about Peninsula when we found out that the movie, it was a sequel, but it would take place in the same world, but it would take place years after the first one. And this one, it kind of has that kind of Thunderdome, Escape from New York kind of feel to it, and it makes more sense when you watch the movie. But the movie itself really it's a run-of-the-mill kind of lackluster action thriller, which I was really disappointed by. And those elements of Thunderdome and Escape from New York aren't really rightfully or fully executed to make the movie even better. I think if they had executed those themes and that kind of feeling a little bit more, it may have made the movie more enjoyable. But the movie itself just I don't know, I just didn't really feel it. And I felt like they used a little bit too much CGI for the movie. Half the movie feels like it's animated, and it's just, I don't know if you really want that. I don't know if it's just like budget limitations or what it was, but I don't know. It left a lot to be inspired, which was a shame because, again, Train to Busan was such a good zombie movie that surprised everyone. So let's move on to the dishonorable mentions. I won't say too much about this or about these movies. I'll just mention them because they're the dishonorable mentions of my disappointments and least liked movies of the year. I only have 3. I have Bloodshot, Jujitsu, and The Doorman. Bloodshot was, of course, the Vin Diesel movie. Jujitsu was the Nicolas Cage movie that kind of everyone was really excited about watching because it was like, it's Nicolas Cage in an action martial arts movie. It wasn't good. And then The Doorman was the Ruby Rose movie that came out over the summer as well. That also wasn't very good. All right. Now let's move on to the disappointments / least liked movies. I can't say that, apparently. Disappointments and least liked movies of the year. So the first one on the list is Fantasy Island. The movie adaptation, of course, of the classic TV show from the 70s, mostly the 70s. The thriller approached the story of Mr. Rourke, played by Michael Pena, in the movie, inviting guests to his luxurious island that brings out their fantasies to life. But of course, chaos and dark secrets begin. The biggest problem I had with the movie is how just disjointed the movie feels. It's tackling 5 to 6 stories and trying to blend them together, but it mishandles them in a way that when it gets to its kind of sort of twist ending, if that's what you want to call it, it doesn't pay off the way I think the writers thought it would. It kind of just comes off as like, oh, okay, like I guess that makes sense. I guess we can go with that. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. I did not enjoy this movie at all. It's so disjointed. That's the main thing, that one of the reasons why I didn't like the movie. It's so just disjointed, and when it finally like brings in characters and brings them all together, it's all like it just happens so quickly, and it's just like, oh, it's like, yeah, okay, it's starting to sort of make sense, and then something else happens, and you're just like, why is this happening? And then the twist comes, and you're just like, oh, that is the dumbest thing I can think of. It doesn't make sense to what the character was doing before. It's just really dumb. I did not like it. The next movie on the list is The Grudge. It's a so I did not like this. I was bored. You don't want to be bored in a horror movie. You really, really don't want to be bored. So it is a reimagining of the Japanese horror hit, of course, Juno, and then the remake of the that came out in 2004. Yeah, 2004 with Sarah Michelle Gellar. This version, directed by Nicholas Pesci, I think that's how you pronounce the last name. He did The Eyes of My Mother, brought the events of the movie to America with 3 different interconnected stories. And if you're a fan of the Grudge movies, you know that the kind of the back and forth of stories, the interconnection of these stories, and how they all are connected together because of the curse or the house or whatever. It's a trademark of the series. The problem is, again, the movie was boring, and it also was not good. It sucked. You can have a boring movie and still kind of be good, I guess. But that is not the case with this. It is not. The movie, it has I literally counted how many decent scares or scares that got me throughout the movie. There was 3. There was 3 decent scares in this movie. And for the life of me, I cannot remember them now. That is how bad this movie is. It tried to connect these stories, but the writing is so all over the place that it doesn't do the movie any favors whatsoever. It wastes its cast. It wastes Damian Bashir, who, although not a main character in the movie, his history is connected to not only kind of the main story that we're following, but also a side story. And I think his involvement could have been way more in the movie and could have made the movie a little bit better because Damon Bashir is an awesome actor. So waste Damon Bashir. Jackie Weaver's in here in one of the side stories. She's kind of wasted in there. And then of course we have the awesome, always awesome and incredible Lynn Shay, a horror icon in her own way. And she's, actually, I know what, now that I'm mentioning Lynn Shay, she is actually involved in one of the decent scares in the movie. But she's kind of wasted in this. She kind of comes in halfway through the movie, and you kind of sort of forget about her after her story's over, and that's not something you want. So it does pay homage to the movies of the past. It's actually, what I found out afterwards, it's supposed to take place between the first two American Grudge movies. So if you watch the American Grudge movies, the first two, this is supposed to take place in between those, apparently. But it doesn't make up for the fact that it's a good movie. For the lack of it being a good movie. At least a decent movie. Honestly, I would have preferred that. I would have preferred that a movie was at least somewhat decent. Again, I was bored out of my mind watching this movie, and that's not something you want. You got John Cho in the movie as well, and you waste her, and you waste him. Does Betty Giplin actually play? I think Betty Giplin's also in this, and she plays John Cho's wife. And that's actually the other decent scare in the movie that I got as well. I can't remember the other third one. I can't remember it. It's not good. Don't waste your time. It is not good. Do not even, it's like, oh, it can't be that bad, right? No, don't do it. Just don't do it. So yeah, there you go. All right. And the final, least liked movie of the year. Actually, none of these are disappointments. These are all least liked movies of the year. Speaking of boring, The Turning. Another adaptation of the Henry James novella, which is called The Turn of the Screw, which I believe was the inspiration also for the second season of The Haunting of Hill House, or at least The Haunting, over on Netflix. It's Saul Mackenzie Davis as Kate, who gets a job looking over the Fairchild children. Miles, played by Stranger Things Finn Wolfhard, and Flora, played by Brooklyn Prince. And they are in a secluded home that is haunted by something in the house. Sort of. I've never actually read the novella, at least all the way through. I've read like little sections of it. So I was going in pretty cold overall of what the story is about. But the movie had something kind of going for it, especially with the chemistry between Mackenzie Davis and Brooklyn Prince. They are actually kind of, if anything, the saving grace of the movie. But their chemistry wasn't enough. It's not enough to keep the movie going or to keep the movie interesting in any sort of way. Plus, there's the ending. Now, I know I actually gone back and read the story, and I know the ending of the book is always supposed to be vague. No matter what version you're trying to tell, it's always supposed to be a little vague. This movie makes it worse because there is nothing in the movie. There's little tidbits here and there of what the movie's trying to do and what it's trying to say with the ending to kind of try to justify the ending, but the ending gives us nothing. The ending of the movie, with everything else that's been told, gives us literally nothing. It is the dumbest ending of a movie that I can remember that I watched this year. And it was so frustrating to watch it because it kind of just ends. And I'm just sitting there in a movie theater with my brother. We actually watched this when we went on vacation, and we're just sitting there. It's like, that's it? That okay. All right. Let's go to the airport then, I guess. It is so bad. I did not like this movie whatsoever. I don't know if this or The Grudge is worse, to be honest with you. Yeah, I would say if you made me choose between this, The Grudge, or Fantasy Island to watch again, I guess I have to choose Fantasy Island, and I guess I would say that Fantasy Island is the lesser of the three movies. But I don't know. These movies aren't good. It was not good. I hated it. just thinking about it. And when I was writing what I wanted to say about this movie, the little blurb, I just got frustrated all over again. I was just seeing that ending in my head. And apparently there's an extended version of the ending, I guess, but I know it can't be any more better than what we got. It was just weird, man. I don't know why they did that, but there you go. All right. Well, that's it. Those are those movies. All right. Let's move on to the movies that just missed the list, and we're moving forward. We're getting past all those movies. We're getting past to the better movies, the movies that I enjoyed a lot, or enjoyed a lot more than what we got. So we're moving forward with the just missed the list category. I have quite a few on here. So the first movie is Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga. Yes, the Will Ferrell, Rachel McAdams Netflix movie. Will Ferrell movies are usually really hit or miss for me. This one, thankfully, was a hit. It's based off the actual competition Eurosong, or the Eurovision Song Contest. That is a real show. It is a real contest, which you should definitely look up some of those performances. Ferrell and McAdams play aspiring musicians, Lars and Singrid from Iceland, who want to join the biggest international singing competition. And when they finally get their chance of living out their dreams, of course, things don't go as smoothly as you think. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect from the movie, but I genuinely really liked it. I had some really good laughs. The chemistry between Ferrell and McAdams is honestly really, really good. And then you add in Dan Stevens, who pops up in the movie, playing a Russian singer, who he just hams it up, man. I love Dan Stevens. He is one of those guys that Hollywood should really just give the ball to and let him go wild. But he hams it up here. But it's really fun. It's funny. The comedy's spot on for a Will Ferrell movie. But the music is actually really good. Even the original songs, which I highly recommend. If anything, watch the movie for the music, for the songs, because I think that's great. All right, so the next movie on Just Missed the List is Host. Now, this is one of the bigger breakout movies of the summer. It came out on the streaming service Shudder. It also hit real close to home at the time, because when the movie came out, this was around the time where a lot more places were starting to shut down. A lot of places were telling people to quarantine at home, to not go out unless you absolutely have to. This movie was also shot during the pandemic and is set during it as well. So in case you don't know what it is, Host follows a group of friends who attend a seance over a Zoom call. And of course, things don't go as planned and things go horribly wrong because they may have brought something unwelcomed from the other side. Director Rob Savage, who also co-wrote the movie, actually got the idea from the movie from pulling off a prank with his friends, who actually are the cast members of the movie, and decided to go with a longer version of it. If you don't know anything about the backstory of it, and you watch the movie and just don't know the backstory, I highly recommend you go see it, because he actually uploaded the prank that he did, which he actually used a version of it in the movie as well. So it's awesome how he got this movie made and how he got it on Shudder. The movie's not even that long. It's literally 60 minutes long. I think even a little less than that. I think it's actually 50 minutes long. So you got 50 minutes, you got less than an hour to spare. You can go watch this movie. It works really, really well. And I think the fact that it got so huge is because, again, it hit at home. We were all at home. We were all quarantined. We didn't know what to do. Maybe some of us even tried seances over Zoom calls. Who knows? But this is actually really, really, it's a really effective horror movie. I don't know how well it will be, with time, because obviously once we get to go out, who knows if we want to go back and watch this. But it was really effective when I saw it when it came out. And the selling point is the friends. The friends actually feel like real people, and it works because obviously a lot of them are actually, again, the history behind it. All these are actually real friends, and it just racks up the tension really, really fast. Again, with the short time limit, it just turns it up right away. It doesn't waste any time, and it's quick and it's effective. And I highly recommend you go watch it. The next movie is I'm Your Woman. This is set during the 70s. You can actually watch this movie right now on Amazon Prime. Rachel Brosnahan, who stars in the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She plays Jean, who is forced to go on the run after her husband betrays his partners, sending her and her baby on a dangerous journey and trying to keep a low profile. I'm Your Woman is not your typical crime drama. You know, instead of focusing on the ongoings and trying to figure out what happened, we follow Jean. We follow her. We follow Rachel Brosnahan's character. She gets random bits of information throughout the movie, but the focus is on her and her trying to figure out what exactly she needs to do for herself, what does she needs to do for the baby, what she needs to do to keep going, and, you know, is she going to look over her shoulder the whole time? Are people who are maybe nice to her, people who used to, that worked for the people that her husband screwed over? Along the way, we get to meet more characters. There's a character named Cal in the movie who's in charge of moving her around, and if she needs anything, he'll get it for her. That eventually leads to his wife, Terry, played by Marsha Stephen Blake, who is great in this movie and actually shares a connection with Jean that she didn't really know about. But make no mistake, this movie belongs to Rachel Brosnahan, and she plays it in such a quiet and personal way that it gets the job done, and it makes the movie so good. There's a scene that happens after it just involves Jean, and she walks into a laundromat, and I won't say what it is, but it's so effective in the movie, and it's so effective, and it just makes you root for her even more and just trying to figure out what's going on. So I highly recommend I'm Your Woman. It's very, very good. Again, it's on Amazon Prime if you want to go watch it right now. This next movie is actually a movie that has not come out yet. I got, like I mentioned earlier, I got some of these movies are from film festivals that I watched. This is one of them. This movie actually comes out this year, and it's called Minari. And Minari actually kind of made some waves online because of the whole Golden Globe situation. If you want to know more about that, go research it. But Minari itself is loosely based on writer-director Lee Isaac Chung's personal life. Minari follows a Korean family who moved to Arkansas to start a farm in the 80s. The straightforward drama has everything going for it. It's got a great cast, mostly all Koreans. It's led by Steven Yeun, who plays Jacob, the father of the family, and Will Patton is in it in a small role. He plays a character named Paul, who helps him out with the farm. The two children are played by Alan S. Kim, who gets the bulk of the work. He actually plays the son, and Noel Cho, I should say, with Kim getting, again, like I said, the bigger of the screen time in New York. Because I think he's actually supposed to play. He is actually Lee Isaac himself, but obviously in a movie form. The main thing about the movie, which may alienate some viewers, because obviously this is also another big thing that is going around, is that most of the movie is spoken in Korean, which is one of the reasons why the Golden Globe situation came up. It's usually the big, heavy, emotional scenes too. That doesn't take away anything from the final product of the movie for me. It actually makes the movie much more personal and makes you invested in the family and in Yeon's Jacob, who, like I mentioned, is based off Chung's own father. It's a great film. It really is. I highly recommend you go watch it. And I think the only reason I put it in the just missed the list portion is because it's a little unfair to put a movie that no one else has seen that comes out this year in that section. So that's the only reason that's on here. But if it came out this year, it would have definitely gone on my favorite movies of the year, because it is very, very good. I could have cheated. It's my own list, but whatever. That's why I put it on here. All right. The next movie is The Old Guard, based off the graphic novel of the same name. The Old Guard stars Charlize Theron as Andy, the leader of a secret group of immortal warriors who are set up and must fight to keep themselves a secret. However, along the way, they find a new immortal warrior named Niall, played by Kiki Lane, who they want to bring into the group. The trailer pushed a very action thriller movie directed by Gina Price by the Wood, but she put the majority of the focus on the characters and really dug into the question of someone who has lived for thousands of years. What would they be like? What would, they have seen so many things. They have seen so many people, what did they go through? What are their views of the world? What are their views of people? Do they make connections to people if they know that they're just going to outlive them? That's really great. There's a scene in the cave with one of the characters and one of the actors. I'm gonna mispronounce his last name. Matthias No, I'm not gonna try his last name. But he's one of the main characters. He's kind of Andy's number 2 guy in the movie, so you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But he has a scene in the cave with Niall where he kind of answers the question of, we're immortal. Do we, do you really want to make connections? Because the whole Niall has a family she's trying to get back to, and that scene kind of it played in a way. It was like, yeah, you can go back to your family, but you're immortal. They're not. And that is a very powerful scene in a movie that you don't expect in an action thriller, especially a comic book movie, especially a movie where it's being promoted as an action thriller. And that's not to say that the action is skimped on, because the fight scenes and the action scenes, I should say, in this movie are great. There's a great fight scene in a church where Theron takes out a squad of goons all by herself, and it's definitely a highlight of the movie. And if none of that does that for you, you can watch the movie because Dudley Dursley, if you're a Harry Potter fan, plays a pure scumbag villain in the movie, if that's what floats your fancy. So I definitely would put The Old Guard on here. The reason why I put The Old Guard on just missed the list, I think it's just because it came out a little bit earlier in the year, and I think just other stuff kind of just pushed it out of the way. That's pretty much why. And the last movie is actually a more recent movie, and that's Wonder Woman 1984. I know that movie is getting a lot of buzz, some good, some negative, but the highly anticipated sequel came out, and I don't want to get too into it because I think a lot of things that have been said about the movie have been said. And I agree with some of the things that have been said, and I don't agree with some other things, but I can see why they would come to that. And then I kind of see myself like being like, okay, yeah, I can see your point. So I will say this: I think Kristen Wiig and Pedro Pascal were welcome additions to the movie. I think one of the big things for me personally was the scattered tones and ideas that made the sequel not as effective as it could have been. It's chock filled with great moments. Gal Gadot shines again as Diana. She plays Diana in this movie. She's not really Wonder Woman. She gets to play Wonder Woman every now and then, but she really is more Diana in this movie. She's not Wonder Woman a lot of the time. She is Diana Prince. Diana of Themyscira. That's who she is in this movie. And I think that really works, but I don't think that's what people wanted. Or I think maybe that's what people wanted if it was in a better movie. Again, it's a bit of a reach for its full potential. And I think there's a lot of things that could have been done better, a lot of things that should have been done better, but I found it's okay. It's an okay movie, and I think I don't know where I would have put it. I didn't feel frustrated. I didn't feel disappointed I was a little disappointed by it, but I wasn't fully disappointed in it because there were some things that really worked in this movie, and a lot of it's not even like the action stuff. It's really more of the personal stuff, and that's why I probably would have put it on the list. Put it on the list, but I pushed it out because there was just other great stuff there. I know that might be controversial, but again, this is my list, this is my opinion, so bear with me on that. But yeah, there's that. Those are my just missed the list. Let's move on to other movies that are not put on the list, but they have their own little section because they are my surprises of the year. All right, let's start off with the first surprise of the year, and that was The Willoughbys. It's actually an adaptation of a children's story, which I actually had never heard of. The animated feature follows the Willoughby children, whose parents show no interest in them whatsoever, and decide to give their parents out of the house for a while so they can live freely. With their new freedom, they get into some hijinks, as probably kids do, and that includes a candy factory, a babysitter, and a cat that narrates their story that is voiced by Ricky Gervais. I didn't really know anything about this until I was scrolling through Netflix and decided to play it. The movie's a lot of fun, and I didn't know where it was going to go. I did feel that it was just a touch too long, even for an animated movie, but I would highly recommend The Willoughbys. The animation style itself it's a little weird. It's a little clunky, but I think it fits the story, and going back and seeing some of the children's books that this drew from, it fits very much the style of the books and everything. So The Willoughbys, go check that out if you haven't already. The next one is Vampires versus the Bronx. This is a coming of age vampire comedy movie that came out on Netflix around October, and it follows three young children. All the actors, the three young actors are pretty new to the scene. They find out that their beloved Brooklyn neighborhood is slowly being gentrified and taken over by the title of the movie, vampires. The movie is a lot. This is also a lot of fun. It falls a lot on the young cast members, and their name: Jaden Michael, Gerald Jones III, Gregory Davis IV, or the sixth. I can't read Roman numerals. Anyway, but the movie falls a lot on them, and their chemistry together is great. They carry the movie, and child actors are always hit or miss, and these three hit it on every level that they're given, and a lot of the movie falls on Jaden Michael's character Miguel for carrying a lot of the weight of the movie, and he does great at it. Method Man's in the movie in a very small role as Father Jackson, and it's very Method Man. It's a nice little character. It brings some levity to the movie. I mean, the movie's not really heavy. It's not, it's not all horror-esque. It's a very, I would say this is a great little gateway horror movie for younger audiences. If you want to get your kids into horror movies, this would be a good movie to do, because it's not too scary. It is scary enough for adults. It's not, but it's not too scary where it's going to scare the crap out of your kids too much. It will scare them a little bit, but not too much. But yeah, this I really liked it. It's very fun. It has very cool throwback feel. But yeah, go check this out if you haven't watched it. The next one is Work It. This is a movie I didn't think I'd enjoy at all, but again, this was right in the middle of the pandemic. It was right at the summer. It was right at the start. So I'm giving a lot of movies leeway this year. This is Netflix's coming of age dance movie. Being a fan of the Step Up movies, and I will not be ashamed of that. They're just dumb fun. This one, Work It, stars Sabrina Carpenter. She was in the Girl Meets World series. She plays the best friend. She stars here as Quinn, who's trying to get into a college of her dreams and creates a lie that she's a part of a dance group despite not knowing how to, and has to enter a big dance competition to impress the administrative person at the college she's at. So along the way, she gets her best friend Jasmine, played by Lisa Koshy in the movie, who hosts the new Double Dare on Nickelodeon. I know I think she was a big YouTuber before that. They form a group of dancers themselves, kind of a ragtag group, and not only enter the competition, but have to also beat the dance group at their school who has won the competition years prior. So honestly, I had zero intention of watching Work It, despite, again, my liking of the Step Up movies. Thankfully, though, despite some of its cheesiness, because it is pretty cheesy, it's a coming-of-age dance movie. And it's not really targeted toward me, it's targeted toward a younger audience. But Work It, it works. I'm sorry. It works. And a lot of that is thanks to the cast. Sabrina Carpenter is a believable lead. Her chemistry with Lisa Koshy is really great. You believe that they're best friends. I think everyone on the cast got along. Just seeing some behind the scenes videos of everything how the movie was made and stuff. They all have their moments. Kenyon Lonsdale, I think that's how you pronounce it. I always mispronounce his first name. But yeah, I think that's how you say it. I think it's Kenyon. Kenyon Lonsdale, he plays the leader of the other dance group, played Juilliard, and it makes sense. I mean, you could probably assume, but it does make sense in the movie as well, why they call him Juilliard. He overplays it just a little bit, but he plays a very nice antagonistic role to our hero, quote unquote, hero group. It's good. It's entertaining. It's entertaining at the very least. Even if you don't like these movies, even if you know they're not targeted toward you, like this one was not really targeted toward me, even though, again, I like the Step Up movies. And yes, I will keep repeating that. I did enjoy it. It's thoroughly enjoyable. It is a run-of-the-mill coming-of-age dance movie, but it's still very good. So that's worked it. And the last surprise of the year will go to Underwater. This is a movie that came out fairly early in the year, and it's a movie that kind of just came out of left field, finding out later on that this movie actually sat on the shelf for like 3 years before it was released. And I'm happy about that because Underwater is led by Kristen Stewart, who is part of an oceanic research team who gets stuck deep underwater after their research rig is devastated by a mysterious earthquake. Of course, they are not all alone, deep, very, very deep down in the ocean floor. Underwater, despite its premise, doesn't have a huge cast. Kirsten Stewart is joined by John Gallagher Jr., Jessica Henwick, T.J. Miller, Vincent Cassell, and like one other person played by newcomer. I'm gonna mispronounce his name. I just know it. Mamadou Ati, I don't think that's how you say it, but he's relatively a newcomer to everything. T.J. Miller does play the usual comic relief. Gallagher and Henwick play members of the crew, and Cassell plays the captain of the rig. Everyone has their moments. Everyone is great in the movie. Everyone it's such a small cast for a lot of the movie that it just works. And I think the less you know about underwater, the better the experience, especially as the movie reaches its final act, which I was not prepared for at all. And I was very genuinely surprised in the direction that they took with that final act of the movie, because it was just, when I was watching, I was like, no way they're doing that. No way, that's crazy. And it works. And I actually just saw this again recently because one of my sisters had not seen it, and we just put it on for her to watch. And I sat there, and I was kind of half paying attention because I kind of already seen it, and I had my laptop open, but I just found myself paying attention more and more to the movie because I forgot how good it was. I forgot how effective it was. So Underwater is definitely one of, if I had to choose one of these movies as my biggest surprise of the year, it would be Underwater, to be honest. Only because it kind of came out of nowhere. There wasn't that much promotion for it, I believe. I think there was only like one trailer and like a few TV spots that came out, and then the movie came out. I mean, the movie didn't make a lot of money at the box office from what I remember. Not a lot of fanfare, but it has kind of found its following now in VOD. So I'm happy for that because it's a very good movie. So if you have not watched Underwater, I highly recommend you watch Underwater. All right, those are my surprises of the year. Let's move on to the honorable mentions. But before I fully go into honorable mentions, I just want to note some other movies that would have also made the list at some point if, throughout the year, if just stuff hasn't, stuff kind of pushed it out of the way. Those other notable movies are Bill and Ted Face the Music, Extraction, Lost Bullet, which is a movie on Netflix. It's a French movie, if you're interested in that. It's a French action movie. Onward, and Inmate Number 1, The Rise of Danny Trejo. That is a documentary about the life of Danny Trejo, and it's very, very good. Highly recommend you go watch that. But so those are the other notable movies before I get to the honorable mentions, which I will start right now. By the way, if you haven't noticed, everything's in alphabetical order for the most part, because I used to do, like I mentioned, best movies and like top 10s and stuff like that, and I just stopped doing that. I just started doing everything in alphabetical order because I just thought it'd be easier. So the honorable mentions, will start with Bad Boys for Life. The long-awaited third Bad Boys movie finally came out, and it didn't really lose that much of a step. It kind of lost a little bit of a step, but not too much. You still know it's a Bad Boys movie. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, of course, returned as Mike and Marcus. Marcus finally leaving the force, and Mike, after a near-death experience in the movie, which, despite not kind of knowing the outcome, it was still very effective, trying to prove that he still has it with a new and younger recruit and team called Ammo. Not only that, Mike's past has come back to haunt him in an unexpected way. The wait was long for this one. Like I said, we've been waiting for this movie for a long time. There's new directors in tow for the movie. They're taking over from Michael Bay. Their names are Aldi El Abi and, I'm mispronouncing their names. You guys know that already. And Balital Faba. Bad Boys for Life works for me, admittedly, because it's just a lot of fun. Just seeing Will Smith and Martin Lawrence just back together it's just fun. Just seeing them back together. It's just, that's what it was. It was like, getting back together with some best friends. Despite that, though, admittedly, there was a lot of retconning in the movie. And the retconning that the movie doesn't really land, especially if you know the first two movies rather well. And the illusion of that is very mixed at best for me. It's like, okay, yeah, you can retcon some stuff. It's been long enough, maybe people forgot, but no, some of us, like, if you really love that first movie, and even if you really love the second movie, you know that some of the stuff that's said in this one is not the case, because that's not what happened. The movie does lend itself to have some future movies if they want to, and it's not done in an overly forced way, except of course for the retcon. But once you get past that, I think it's thoroughly enjoyable, and I really liked Bad Boys for Life. So the next honorable mention is Bad Education. This is a HBO Films adaptation of the New York Magazine's article, The Bad Superintendent. Hugh Jackman plays a beloved superintendent, Frank Tassone, who, along with his school district, become the prime suspects of one of the biggest public school embezzlement scandals that people can remember. Admittedly, I had very little knowledge about the scandal, and even if you do, I don't think it will ruin your enjoyment of the movie at all. Jackman is great here, like he always is when he's not playing Wolverine. It's always nice to see Hugh Jackman do something else other than Wolverine. Or Wolverine-like. But, Jackman's a great actor. Just got to give him some stuff. And admittedly, I like his Wolverine too, but still. It's nice to see him. Next to Jackman, though, we have Allison Janney, who is always reliable in pretty much anything that she does. And she pretty much steals the movie from him for a good chunk. I mean, Allison Janney's character is probably like in the first, I want to say maybe 45 minutes of the movie, and then she kind of makes like sporadic little appearances for the rest of the movie, and then she kind of just disappears. So a lot of it goes back to falling on Jackman, and he carries it. And this movie is very, very good. It's probably the outlier of all my choices this year, not only because it was on cable, but it's completely different genre fare from the rest of the movies that I have. But I highly recommend you go watch Bad Education if you haven't already. The next movie on the honorable mentions list is Birds of Prey. Margot Robbie, of course, returned as Harley Quinn, who, after publicly breaking up with the Joker, who does not really appear in the movie at all, suddenly becomes a target for all the people she's wronged in Gotham. One of those people is Roman Seniores, aka Black Mask, played by Ewan McGregor, who ends up using Quinn to get to Cassandra Cain, played by newcomer Ella J. Bosco, who is in possession of something he desperately wants. In the meantime, Diana Lance, played by Journey Smollett, Renee Montoya, played by Rosie Perez, and the Huntress, played by Mary Elizabeth Winston, also come into the fray, leading to a big-time showdown. I think we all agree that after Suicide Squad, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn was going to get her own movie. Even though it wasn't officially announced, we all knew it was going to happen. And while the marketing push probably wasn't the best, the title-wise, Birds of Prey is entertaining enough to keep you invested in everything that's going on. It was enough to keep me invested in everything that was going on. The movie does slow down at certain parts, which makes the overall movie a bit frustrating, but director Kathy Yan was able to make Harley a fully fleshed out character, while also introducing some new fan favorite characters that people have been dying to see in a movie. Because Harley wasn't just eye candy anymore. Harley was an actual person. But you had all these new characters. You had the Huntress, who, had a nice little new take on her in the movie. You had Diana Lance, who of course is Black Canary in the comics, and we have her new take on that. We have Renee Montoya playing the cop, and then of course we have Ewan McGregor playing Black Mask in a very interesting way, in a way that I've never seen Black Mask played before, but it really worked here. But you also had Victor Zayas, and Chris Messina plays Victor Zayas in the movie, and he played him in a very Victor Zayas way, but his own little take on it as well, and that was very effective. I don't know what to really think of the movie, or I didn't know what to think about the movie before it came out, I should say. I was rather worried that Warner Brothers was just kind of just cashing in on the Harley property, and it was going to give us a subpar movie, and I was truly surprised and enjoyed Birds of Prey for what it was. I thought I wasn't going to like it, and I did. And was it perfect? No, it was not perfect. Was it better than Suicide Squad? I mean, a lot of people out there like Suicide Squad. I'm not one of those people, but it's a very good it's a very good Harley Quinn movie, and there hasn't been a lot of Harley Quinn movies. So that's probably not the right thing to say. It was a very good team up movie in the DC universe. That there hasn't been a lot of movies, and the DC universe is kind of in a spiral right now, even at the time of this recording. But But yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than it was. It wasn't perfect. There was a lot of problems with it, but I really enjoyed it. The next movie, as an honorable mention, is Love and Monsters. This one also could have been in the surprise section, but I decided to put it here because I really liked it. I liked it more than I thought I would. It's in a monster-infested world where survivors now live in underground bunkers. Joel, played by Dylan O'Brien, learns that the love of his life is only 80 miles away. Not being the best in dangerous situations, as we see very early on in the movie, Joe still ventures out to make the journey to reunite with his love while facing the deadly monsters along the way. Like I mentioned, didn't expect much from Love and Monsters. I figured it would be kind of a dumb, fun family adventure movie that would probably be forgettable by the end of the year or anything like that. But luckily, it isn't, and it wasn't. The movie rests solely on O'Brien's shoulders, and he's done a few of these movies now. He did the Maze Runner movies. I feel like O'Brien, there's just something. I mean, I think he has it. I think he does have it, but I think his movie choices are the things that are holding him back, and the thing that is making Hollywood stopping Hollywood from pushing him to the moon. I think he does have what I think he does have what it takes. I think it's kind of the movies that he picks that either don't, find the fanfare that people hope for, or just they're not that all great movies. But a lot of it rests on O'Brien's shoulders, and he carries it very well, very, very well. There's a small cast here. Jessica Henwick, speaking of her from Underwater, she appears in the movie. She actually plays Joel's old girlfriend. There's two small supporting roles in the movie by Michael Rooker, who plays Clyde, and a very young actress named Ariana Greenblatt, who plays Minoru. There are two survivors that Joel meets along the way and kind of teach him, the ways and the world, what it is, because they are going to a different destination than Joel is. And that whole section with them in it is really cool. It's really fun. But the whole design of the monsters and the world, it really works. It makes sense for what they were trying to do. And the movie moves at such a brisk pace that it only slows down really for an emotional beat. And that is surprisingly very effective and fitting for what the movie is and what it is and was at that point. And I think that is why I think it's mainly really that scene that made me put it here as an honorable mention. And it's Dylan O'Brien. It's just Dylan O'Brien being him, and that's what I really like about that. So there you go. The next honorable mention on the list is a newer movie as well. It's I'm debating about moving this to my favorites, because I think the more I think about it, I think the more it is very good. But I'm gonna leave it here. But just know that this could easily go in my favorite movies of the year as well. It's an honorable mention regardless, but still. Soul. Pixar's Soul. Joel, played by Jamie Foxx, finally gets his big break as a musician, and then he suddenly dies and is transported to a realm called U Seminar, where souls are getting ready to go back to Earth. Joel is then tasked with helping a rebellious soul named 22, played by Tina Fey, to find her purpose. All the while, Joel is trying to find his way back to his body so he can finally make the gig. Pixar really went out of their way to just really give us the basics of the movie and not show any footage, really, of the second half of the movie. COVID may have helped with that a little bit. This movie was supposed to come out in theaters. It was supposed to come out, I think it was supposed to come out in the middle of the summer, and then they pushed it to November, and then finally, it came out on Disney Plus. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can go watch it there. But not knowing anything besides the first half of the movie, I think really helps this movie, because it doesn't give you all of what the movie really is. I didn't know where Soul lands on my Pixar rating. I want to say it's near the middle for sure, like upper middle in the Pixar ratings and the Pixar movies of all time. But I can say that I really enjoyed this movie. I would recommend it to people because This movie is secretly funny. There's a lot of humorous moments in this movie that I think once you sit down and you realize what they were trying to accomplish is very, very good. But more importantly, it's filled with a lot of heart. I didn't go with soul there because I did it with Work It. I won't do it here. It has a lot of heart in the movie, and I think the overall message that the movie was trying to make, which comes at the very end of the movie, is very, very timely. And it's, at the end of the day, it is a beautiful message with great animation and music. Even if you're not a jazz fan, because the movie is about a jazz player, even if you're not a jazz fan, it has a great score by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, who did it. I forgot they were doing the score for this, and then I was watching the end credits, and I was like, what? I didn't realize. I totally forgot that it was Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. It's a beautiful movie. It really is. It's a movie that if you sit down, maybe you won't get it the first time, but if you watch it again, you will get it. And it's a beautiful message, and especially what's going on now. I think Pixar, those beautiful bastards, they did it again. So there you go. And the last honorable mention that I will talk about is The Gentleman. That is Guy Ritchie's return to the gangster subgenre. Matthew McConaughey plays a marijuana kingpin himself. No, I'm just kidding. He plays a marijuana kingpin in London who was looking to get out of the game. Unfortunately, his leaving puts a big target on his back, and new players wanting to move in on his territory sooner rather than later. Ritchie has made a name for himself doing these gangster crime subgenre movies like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch. I'll even put Rock and Rolla in there. I know a lot of people don't like Rock and Rolla. I'm probably in the very small handful of people that like Rock and Rolla. So this is his return, and was rather welcoming, and it's a great one at that. McConaughey fits rather the role perfectly. Charlie Hunnam plays his right-hand man named Ray, who has a lot of scenes with him, but also has a lot of scenes with Hugh Grant's character named Fletcher. And Hugh Grant steals this movie. He chews up every scene he's in, and it works, and it's so good. We also got Colin Farrell in there. Jeremy Strong's in there as well. Henry Golden shows up. He's kind of the antagonist of the movie. He's kind of making a name for himself in the movie itself. I would highly recommend The Gentleman. It's very, very good. If you haven't seen it already, if you were on the fence about it, go watch it. It's very, very good. It's very entertaining. There's this weird subplot in the middle of the movie that doesn't make any sense, but it's Guy Ritchie, so I'm assuming he does this in his other movies where there's subplots where it's like, what does this have to do with the rest of the movie? And you kind of realize maybe at the end there's some connection, but not really. So yeah, there's a weird subplot in the middle of the movie that it kind of throws everything off, but it just gives you a better sense of who these characters are at the end of the day. So there you go. Before I get to my best or my favorite movies of the year, I should say, there are other movies that I watched this year. I watched a lot of movies this year. Not as many as I have other years. I'm going to give you an example of how much COVID has affected my movie watching. So in 2018, I watched, and these are all new movies, by the way. These are not old movies. These are all new movies that were released either in theaters, film festivals, or streaming services. So in 2018, I watched 115 movies. In 2019, I watched 113 movies. This year, of all the new movies that came out in theaters for those 3 months, of all the movies that came out on VOD, on streaming services that I actually got the chance to watch, I watched 71. That is a massive drop. And that's not including like all those new movies that came out that I knew were there. I just didn't get a chance to watch it. I didn't get a chance to watch them. And I'm really upset about that. So here's the movies that I missed that I really wanted to watch that I'm assuming would have made it on one of my lists this year. And these are the highlighted ones. These are the ones that I really wanted to watch. I just didn't get a chance to watch. Just Mercy, The Lodge, The Way Back, The Wolf of Snow Hollow, Emma, The Five Bloods, which I'm really upset about. Possessor, which is another one I'm really upset about. Come Play, Mank, The Devil All the Time, The Trial of the Chicago 7, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Those are all movies that came out this year that I did not get a chance to watch. Now, obviously, I will watch a lot of these movies. The Croods: A New Age was on that list, but I actually watched that earlier I actually watched that, I think, New Year's Day? No, it was a day. So I watched it on the 2nd. So I'm not going to count it on the list because, there are certain rules that I will follow. But those are all the movies that I missed that I watched that would have ended. And by the way, The Croods: A New Age probably would have ended up on my probably just missed the list category, to be honest, just of everything else that I watched. But yeah, there you go. You want to know what other movies I watched that didn't make the list whatsoever? Here we go. I'm just gonna rattle them off. I'm not gonna go into them at all. Mortal Kombat Legends, Scorpion's Revenge, The Lovebirds, My Spy, Greyhound, Guns Akimbo, Mulan, The Babysitter Killer Queen, The Columnist, which is actually a movie from a film festival, The Rhythm Section, VFW, Doolittle, Blood Quantum, Superman Red Sun, Scoob, Enter the Fat Dragon, Irresistible, Project Power, Greenland, Misbehavior, Alona Holmes, which almost made my Just Missed the List, by the way. Scare Me, Get the Hell Out, which was a movie from a film festival. Hunted, which was also a movie from the film festival, which will actually come out on Shudder, I believe, this month or in February, one of those two. Black Bear, also another film festival movie. Shadow in the Cloud, which actually came out already. It came out, I think it came out this week. Yeah, this week, which I guess I would recommend. It's fine. It's fine. The New Mutants, Rogue, Superintelligence, Honest Thief, and Freaky. Those are all the other movies that I watched this year. 71 total new movies I watched. But that is a lot. That is quite a lot. All right. So that being said, let's move on to the big list, my favorites of the year. This one, I always find it weird with these movies because people always put them on the year they came out, but I always consider, for me, once a movie comes out on wide release, where I am, even though we're kind of a big market here in Chicago, we're not as big of a market like LA or New York. So my first movie is 1917. And again, that falls under the limited release, wide release bubble. It came out in LA and New York, in 2019, but I didn't see it in 2020 until this year, or not large 2019, until last year, 2020, because it didn't get a wide release here in Chicago until 2020. So 1917 falls under that, but I'm still putting it here because, come on. It follows two soldiers on a time-sensitive mission. Sam Mendes, who directs the movie, decided to not only make a war movie, but make it a one continuous looking take war movie with Roger Deakins in charge of cinematography. It's beautiful to look at. You really do feel the massive weight on the shoulders of these characters. There's the scene where the bombs are going off and one of the characters is running away. That's a highlight of the movie. It's so good. It really is so good. And I love that movie. I really do. So the next movie, my favorites, is Palm Springs. I would have put this as one of my biggest surprises of the year. One of my breakout movies of the year, especially of the summer. This came out on Hulu, and it takes the Groundhog Day concept and turns it into kind of a romantic comedy drama, if you want to just mix all those together. It follows Andy Samberg, who plays a character named Niles, who is stuck in a time loop at a wedding, and eventually, by accident, drags another character, Sarah, played by Christine. I always mispronounce the last name. Meloni. Actually, that's not Meloni. I always mispronounce. She's the one that ended up playing the mother in How I Met Your Mother. She falls into the same time loop as well. Palm Springs, interestingly, came out on as the pandemic here in the States was really kicking off as well, and it was a movie that definitely we needed at the time, because not only is okay, these characters are stuck in the same situation we are, but it's funny, it's charming, it's rough to watch sometimes, seeing these characters. There's a point in the movie where these characters are just yelling at each other, and you just feel it. You just feel it. It works so well. It's a well polished movie. It never feels like it's repeating itself, despite the fact that it's, a repeated loop. Samberg is terrific in this movie. Everyone knows Andy Samberg for his comedic stuff, but here, while he does have his comedic moments, it's a different side of him. He's actually playing the character straight. He's playing him as a dramatic role. I mean, this guy has also been in the time loop. He doesn't know how long he's been in the time loop. There's never this magical character that comes to him and be like, oh, you've been in this time loop for, 1,000 days, years or whatever. We just know he's been there for a while. And it's heartbreaking to see that. And you kind of see that, and he kind of lets his guard down at some point, and you hear him, you can hear it's like, yeah, I've been here stuck. I don't know how long I've been stuck here. And it's great. It's great to watch him, spread out and do new things. It's great to see him not just be the comedic character all the time. We have J.K. Simmons in here as well. He pops in a small role as Roy. I won't spoil how he's involved, but it's very, very good. It's very J.K. Simmons, and it's very good. So I do highly recommend Palm Springs if you haven't watched it. It feels different. The Groundhog Day concept has kind of been done to death, and a lot of times it's not done right. But I think Palm Springs, I would put Palm Springs right there with Happy Death Day and the modern movies that take that Groundhog Day concept and flip it on its head and do something different and unique that have done it successfully, I would say. So yeah. The next movie and my favorites is The Invisible Man. Leigh Whannell's new take on The Invisible Man sees Elizabeth Moss's Cecilia, the target of the new titled character, who was in an abusive relationship beforehand. The Invisible Man, Adrian, his name is Adrian. He is presumed dead, and Cecilia, of course, does not believe that, because especially after she starts experiencing weird incidents and begins to think that there's something following her. And she's right, because it is the Invisible Man. Whannell made waves with his previous directorial effort in Upgrade. Upgrade was actually on my favorite movies of the year, I believe, last year when it came out. I hope it was. It better have been, because I really like that movie. But anyway, so this had a lot of eyes on it. And add in the failed Dark Universe aspect that Universal was going for. We won't talk about that. Whannell stepped up to the plate, and it hit a home run. This new iteration of the story is just what the material needed, and needed kind of an upgrade, and has executed right with a strong performance by the always reliable Elizabeth Moss. Whannell's solid direction. And this, so as a thriller, as a horror, it works effectively, but I think it works even more because you have the concept of the Invisible Man, and it justifies the paranoia of someone escaping an abusive relationship with a sci-fi twist. And I think that works so well. I think it works so perfectly. And I almost call her by her character's name. And Elizabeth Moss as Cecilia delivers such a great performance, and you really believe her. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you believe her because she's telling the truth. But you can also see maybe she's not seeing what she's seeing sometimes. Although we do kind of see that there's a point in the movie where she gets beaten up by the Invisible Man. But if you're another character in that world and you start experiencing this and you know what she's gone through, you can see why she's maybe not telling the truth and anything like that. So I just thought it was very effective. It's a very effective a very effective thriller. I don't want to call it a horror movie. I want to call it a thriller. I think a lot of people are calling it thriller, and maybe some people are calling it horror movies. Who knows? But I see it more as a thriller, not a horror movie. Although the concept of an invisible man potentially being the person that you were in an abusive relationship with probably is a horror movie in itself. So call it what you will. And I have one more movie, and this is a movie that I don't think a lot of people, I haven't seen enough people talk about this movie. And it is relatively new. It came out in December on a platform that maybe not a lot of people have. And that's Wolfwalkers. This is currently on Apple TV Plus. If you want to get like a free trial and watch the movie, I highly recommend you do that. This is a movie I knew nothing about. I absolutely knew nothing about this movie. This is around the film festival circuit time. So my brother got a screener for the movie in October, and I've been sitting on this one for a while because I didn't even do a written review for it. It's an animated feature, and it's drawn to look like a children's book. And it follows Robin, who is voiced by Honor. I'm going to mispronounce her last name. Neefsey. That's probably not how you say it. Who, I don't know why I'm whispering. Along with her hunter father, voiced by Sean Bean, they are sent to Ireland to hunt a pack of troublesome wolves. However, when Robin befriends a free-spirited girl named Mabe, voiced by Eva Whittaker, who has a strong connection to the wolves and learns the local legend of the Wolf Walkers. Not knowing anything about the movie, that really added to my enjoyment of the movie. The story of two young girls becoming friends despite their differences, which connects the overall story, really is just so pure and so fun to watch, especially with the animation style, that it doesn't, and if that doesn't do it for you, the animation should. I mean, this movie looks so good. I was awestruck by how great the animation is from beginning to end. It never lets up. It literally does look like a child's book come to life, and it works so well. The score is great. The voice acting is great in here as well. It's a fun. It's a story that's not afraid to go to that certain place at some point, and it's really good. I have nothing but great things to say. It was a risk making having the movie look the way it is, but it works so well. And the story, it's not fully out there. You can kind of, I've been looking for anything that says this movie is based off a children's book. It's not, at least from what I was able to find. So it's very good. It's very good. So do yourself a favor and go watch Wolf Walkers. Even if you don't like it, suggest it to, someone that, maybe has kids so they can go watch it. It's very good. Highly recommend Wolf Walkers. I would say it's probably my favorite animated movie of the year. I really would. It's very good. Okay. And that's it. I'm done. Finally. I want to run through the list again, but that's just way too many movies. So, I'll run down I guess I'll run down this. No, I'm not going to run it down. You've heard my voice enough. But there you go. So those are all my movies. My surprises, my frustrating movies of the year, not my disappointments, my least liked favorite movies of the year, and of course my favorite movies of the year right here with you guys. And this is usually the part where I would go and tell you guys my most anticipated movies of the year. But we don't know what's going to happen this year. COVID's still around. People are still acting like idiots. I will be honest, and I'm recording this section after the terrible incident in DC with people running into the Capitol building. I'm recording this section the same day that's happened, and I don't know. I don't know, and I try. You guys, if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that I try to avoid any sort of political things going on. I always try to avoid talking about the real world and stuff like that, because it's just a place where I want to talk about movies, where I just want to be an idiot and say my dumb movie opinion and thoughts here to you guys, anyone who's listening. But I don't know what's going to happen. And when it comes to, going back to the movie theaters, it's probably going to be a very long time. I don't think we'll be going back to the movie theater anytime soon. So maybe there are movies that are coming out this year. There are stuff that's coming out like on HBO Max. Warner Brothers had that huge announcement that they were releasing their entire 2021 slate on HBO Max and theaters same day. So we'll be seeing a lot of those movies coming out. I think one of them's coming out later this month. The Denzel movie with Rami Malek, The Little Things. Maybe I'll do like a little feature on that later, now that I'm going to start doing more podcasts for you guys. But I'll have to figure that out, what we're going to do about that. But movies coming out in theaters and stuff like that. But there's movies coming out. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't want to mark anything down, because stuff can get pushed back again. And again, just the way the world is going right now, it doesn't look like we're going anywhere back to normal anytime soon, at least not safely and effectively as we should have by now, because the rest of the world is laughing at us because they've taken the measures to protect themselves and try to go back to a normal way of life. But we're good old America. But yeah, that's it. Okay, that's as far as I'll go with political stuff. But thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. I know I have been away for quite a while, and I have many thoughts on what the future of the podcast will be. But for right now, I'm just going to keep recording. I'm just going to keep enjoying it. And if anything changes, I will obviously let you guys know. So check out the description below, the show notes, so you guys can look at all the links to follow me elsewhere. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Maybe comment down below some of your favorite movies of the year. If you're following me, or if you're listening to this on Stitcher, on Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, make sure to hit that follow button as well. Hit that rating button. Leave me some reviews. Really appreciate it. Really help out the podcast in the long run. And go follow me on social media. Again, those links will be down there as well. That was the best place to keep up to date on what's going to happen with the podcast and stuff like that. So thank you guys so much once again. Hopefully, 2020 was quite a year. Let's hope that 2021 is better. Although it's not starting off great, guys. It really. Hopefully, this is the reverse. Hopefully, it's the reverse of 2020. Hopefully everything bad happens at the beginning of 2021, and then the later half of 2021 is perfect. It's fine. It's normal, or somewhat normal. I mean, going back to the way things used to be, it's not really saying much. But hopefully it gets better. Hopefully it just gets better. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. If you want to let me know what your favorite movies were, you can go hit me up on any of those social media platforms or on YouTube or anything like that. So thank you guys. I know you'll find a way. So thank you guys so much. Remember, be good people. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Just be safe. And all importantly, just be safe. Don't be stupid. Don't do anything stupid. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. I will see you guys hopefully next week for another new podcast. And yeah, take care.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!